today we are gathered here to talk about the pressing issue about climate change. As report shows that 3.6 billion people are living in areas affected by climate change, and thereby climate change is likely to cause more than 250,000 deaths. You know why? And these are going to be caused by rising in the ocean, the floods, droughts. But it is more imperative and a matter of survival for our planet and the future generation. But fear not, there is hope. We have the power to make a great difference to mitigate the effects of climate change. And climate change, as all know, is the abnormal changing in the climate where the weather patterns have merely changed, and it's not only in Kenya alone, but also the world at large. But first and foremost, we must acknowledge science, because climate change is real. It is happening now, it has the and it is being primarily driven by agricultural, human activities, and also industrial activities. To be more specific, to talk about agriculture and also industrial issues. Take this time and also think about in more industrial countries like Europe, whereby they have more industries producing the most and dangerous chemicals to the atmosphere, which is carbon. And in this carbon, most of the countries that are going to suffer are we in Africa, because we are not producing the highest amount of carbon. But it is something that challenges our minds, in that we are the people who are suffering for what we did not work for. And it is affecting us in a high percentage. As also, it will be crucial if we be the climate change mitigators and deal with this issue in a way that it is helpful and also in a better way, in which every person in the country and also in the room is concerned. Just for instance, take this in. So what can we do to deal with this climate change? We are transitioning to newly renewable sources of energy. What do I mean by this? You know what? I'm talking about the renewable sources of energies like hydroelectric, use of solar power. And this use of solar power, they will not only help to mitigate the climate change, but also they will create employment. And this employment is likely to reduce the issue that is coming is more in Kenya. Then, if we do this, it cannot be as successful if we cannot have conjunction whereby every person should put his hands or his cooperation to deal with this issue, in which we will need the non-governmental and also non-governmental organizations that will help to mitigate this. And also by another way in which we will deal with this issue of climate change is protecting the ecosystem and also improving the forest cover. And this is going to be done whereby most of the people who are being affected are the people from the country, and most of this is in the agricultural sector, whereby most of the people need to be reminded now and then to do agroforestry. Agroforestry in simple terms is doing your agriculture and inclusion of forestry. And the forestry will also help in carbon sequestration, whereby this carbon sequestration will be done by planting, whereby you have planted your crops, and in this crop they will help you to remove the carbon that is also in the atmosphere and use it to make humus, which will be helpful to a farmer in the field. Also, to move on, we should also talk about the promoting sustainable agriculture issues, whereby most of the people should be addressed in a way that they will be in a situation that they will know the importance of intercropping, the issue of cover crop planting, and this will also help to reduce the issue of climate change, in which will reduce the soil erosion, which is becoming and also increasing in our country, causing lack of food. Also, moving on, we should now invest in climate change or climate resiliency infrastructure. What do I mean by this? climate resiliency infrastructure. This is whereby we are now advocating for, we use our technologies in which most of this is going to affect in the aquatic environment, whereby the oceans now, they have taken the waves, whereby the waves are eat the water from the ocean coming to the land, where it eats to the land and wets the land and takes away sand. As you can see from the research shows that most of the land has been taken, all the land in the near to the sea bodies has been increasing, or the sea has now taken time to take more land. Also, in this issue of transitioning to renewable energy, we should be talking about the issue of e-mobility, e-vehicles, e-bikes. And what do I mean by this? We are going to deal with the issue of carbon emission. And if we engage in this, it is quite unfortunate that our president the other day told us all, opened and launched the issue of e-mobility, and we saw his convoy having all involving the e-mobility vehicles. But it comes of no sense when we don't see these vehicles being used, because it was just like showcasing, in which then what was the essence of this? Also, moving on, we should also talk about the promoting of carbon farming. You know what I'm talking about? Carbon farming. Carbon farming it is one of the farming in which we are working in a way that we do carbon sequestration to help in farming. And also, it will be quite unfair if I speak about climate change and I don't speak about waste management. Research shows that 3.6 million metric tons is being produced daily in municipalities, and of which 37% is volatilized, and also about 15 of this is metal, 13 of this is glass and plastic, taking the highest percentage of 40%, in which you and I, we are the influencers of this, because it is quite unfortunate that most of us we have used today, we have taken food that has been wrapped in plastic. But the question is, where did you recycle your wrappings of your food? So it is high time now that we deal with this climate change from a personal level, in that we should now enhance education. And this is about education. I think it will be quite unfair if I say, and we cannot have the debt to pay ignorance, because ignorance has no defense. And most of us, we are in this era whereby we are not able to deal with this. We are not able to deal with this. What do I mean? We should now increase the education rate. It is quite high time that now we engage the people in the society who doesn't know on the ways in which to mitigate climate change, to be aware of what's happening, of what they should be doing, and by doing this, it will help in a way that they will now understand what is climate change, the effect and the causes. Moving on to issue about agricultural issues. Climate change, we have about the issue of using synthetic fertilizer and also synthetic fiber in, and this is whereby we have it brings about the issue of food security, whereby most of the food that we consume nowadays has been taken, or is being used from the synthetic fertilizer, and now we are now encouraged in a way that we should use the manure, or the tillage that is likely to come from the normal or the organic plants that we have. And these plants we should also now do what we call as soil sampling. What do I mean by soil sampling? Now, as farmers to increase their productivity and also the food chain, they are now encouraged in a way to do their soil sampling, so that you can know what is this mineral that my soil is missing, so that it can be added. And it cannot be added from the issue of the synthetic one, but from the manual one, whereby you'll be told your soil is lacking calcium. Now you can go and take this waste from, let's say, the ocean, whereby we have the dust from omena, which will be used to enrich the soil. And this is in one way that we have done, that we will have mitigated the climate change to deal with this. Instead of we could have used the fertilizer, synthetic fertilizer. Also, we should now include new technologies to deal with climate change. New technologies. This is whereby from the countries, most of the countries have been affected by climate change, like Saudi Arabia, which is one of the examples that has used the technology to change the country to be a food hub, whereby they are now able to produce their own food that they are in an arid area where they have now taken into consideration about irrigation. It is high time now that our country to take this into consideration. We saw our president go there, but he came back and told us, in where I've seen this, but he has not told us how we will do this, or he has not shown any initiative. Then, as youths and the game changers and the climate changers, it is high time that now we take this into consideration and deal with this climate change. To deal with this climate change. Also, we should have innovative and collaborative to reduce climate change. And this is whereby we have climate change technologies transfer and capacity building. Capacity building and also giving out prizes. Imagine, the Media Council of Kenya also gives out awards to journalists, to young journalists, to educate them or to motivate them on the issue about journalistic skills. What if we take this initiative and deal with it in our own concern about climate change, whereby we will encourage for youths from schools or rather from any place who will come up with innovative technologies that will help to mitigate climate change. Back in high school, we now remain, and most of the product or most of the services that they're using now has been the source of that. So it's high time now we deal with this, and by doing this capacity building and also giving out prices, it will help us to mitigate this issue. Now, in a nutshell, now to wind up, addressing climate change requires concept approach of different fronts, and on which together we can, and it can also happen. Also, it will be done by the government intervening, personal initiatives, dealing with these effects in a proper way that will help us to deal or rather to help to transition to a climate resilient. I thank you for your cooperation and time, but before I wind up, I will just give you a quote that will help, or a piece of what will take that will help you now as you get out of this place. Now all know that you are a climate changer and take an action by number one, ensure that you have a tree that you plant, because research shows that about one tree produces, and one mature tree is able to produce oxygen for about 10 people. Then ask yourself, the oxygen now you are breathing in, it is whose status? Thank you for your time. God bless you.